Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hey folks, so we're on the doors of Ramadan and we're still speaking to Sh.Ahmad Kutty about the rulings of Ramadan, the rules of fasting, how we fast, how should we behave during the month of Ramadan. Today inshallah ta'ala we'll talk about the jurisprudence-based ahkam of Ramadan and fasting itself. What is fasting, how do you fast, what breaks your fast, and what makes your fast complete. Sh.Ahmad Kutty, welcome back.
Thank you for having me here.
Jazakallah khair, and may Allah
It's a pleasure and honor for me.
Barakallah. Actually, the pleasure is all ours, alhamdulillah. So, last time, Sheikh, we talked about the spiritual side of Ramadan. We talked about the ahkam, I guess really how to prepare yourself for the month of Ramadan, and also what you should benefit out of it. Today, what I'd like to focus on is the ahkam, the jurisprudence side of the fiqhi part of fasting, specifically Ramadan. I don't want to get into the other times of fasting. Let's just stick to Ramadan, inshallah. So, when upon whom is Ramadan or fasting the month of Ramadan obligatory?
Well, fasting of Ramadan is obligatory on every Muslim who is healthy, who is not traveling, or is not suffering from extreme old age in such a way that fasting would endanger the health. Islamic law is revealed by God Almighty, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is merciful. So those who cannot fast because of sickness, because of old age, and also women who are menstruating, and those who are in postal, this after childbirth, going through that, they should not be fasting at that time, but they should make up for it. Those who are able to make up for it, they should make up, but those who are not able to make up for it, they should expiate and redeem themselves by offering the fidya, which is feeding a poor person per day of fasting.
Okay, so let's break it down. You said, first of all, they have to be a Muslim.
Muslim, adult.
So if a non-Muslim fast?
Non-Muslim is because
the
foundation of faith is not there. Faith is a requirement.
So, I mean, nowadays we hear of many politicians and people who become,
we don't want to make a judgment. If they have faith in God Almighty, any good deed they do will be acceptable to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Okay, very good.
But standard ruling is when you say faith, they say faith in as required by Islam.
Okay, very
good. But of course in the Quran, whoever has faith in God and belief in the last day and does good works, they will be rewarded for their good deeds.
Okay. Muslim, and then the second thing I think you said was an adult.
Adult. So children are not required. It's not an obligation on them to fast, but of course they should be gradually introduced to fasting, so that when they attain maturity, puberty, it would be easy for them to fast. So during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, we are told the Sahaba is to encourage children to fast by allowing them first just to skip one meal. If they have been in the habit of taking 3 meals a day, skip 1 meal. And then gradually they will be, able to fast.
If children under the age of adulthood,
those who are not attained puberty.
Yeah. If they're under the age of puberty, if they haven't had puberty and they fast,
are they
rewarded?
They will be rewarded. Because Allah is merciful, they will be rewarded. Yeah.
Will the parents be rewarded for them?
Parents will be, certainly, whatever good deed children do, parents receive a share of the reward.
Wonderful. Okay, so they have to be Muslim, they have to be an adult. I think the third one that you've mentioned, you said they have to be...
If somebody is traveling, making a long journey, he is not required to fast. But if he fasts, he's excused. He doesn't have to make up for it. But if the journey is not rigorous and it's no long distance, then of course one should fast.
So this is, I think, a debatable point. Maybe you can shed some light on it. Is it better to fast while you're traveling or not?
While traveling, if fasting, the mashakka is hardship. Because yuridullahu bikumul yusr, Allah wants ease for you and comfort for you. So if while making a long distance journey, fasting may be rigorous hardship. So in that case, they can skip the fasting. But if they have hardship and they fasted, it's not recommended for them to fast. But if there is no hardship, then of course they should fast.
Okay. No, they should if there so if there's no hardship.
No hardship, it's better they fast.
It's better they fast. Okay, very good. So Muslims, adults, and you're saying residents, and I think the fourth one you were saying
those who are free from menses. In the case of women, those who are menstruating should not be fasting. Those who are undergoing the postnatal bleeding, nifas, after the delivery, 40 days or 60 days, if they are having bleeding, they should not be fasting.
Okay, so you're using different terminology. I just want to explain a little bit. So one of them you're saying they don't have to, and now you're saying they should not.
They should not be fasting.
So okay,
the fasting is, because freedom from menses, freedom from that postnatal bleeding, is one of the conditions for the validity of fast.
Okay, very good. So this is really good, inshallah, that we have them. Now the question that comes here at this point, and it's a question that comes often. If you have an excuse not to fast and you are amongst Muslims, should you show the fact that you're not fasting, or do you have to hide it?
Well, generally the custom among Muslims is they should not, because whatever you do, you may be indirectly encouraging people. And that's why even if you are not fasting, it's better for you, if you are eating, not to do it openly. But if because of sickness you are not fasting and you ate, happen to be somebody see you, there is no sin involved. Because we know that Sahaba like Anas bin Malik was traveling, and he asked for the food to be brought in front of him, and others saw it. And they asked, I said, I'm traveling now. So it's fine. And Rasulullah himself, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, broke his fast when they were traveling, and he realized some Sahaba were becoming totally exhausted. So he asked for a cup of water, and he drank it in public. So if it is wrong to do that, but generally in the Muslim community, because they don't want to, people, there is a sanctity for Ramadan. They think it's unnecessarily, making a show of eating and things like that. That will promote, because encourage other people also to do that. And that's why they don't recommend that if you can. But in the case of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he had to do that to tell people, in this case, you should not be fasting, endangering the health.
So I guess the sunnah would be that if you're in a position of power, a position of teaching, you can then teach the people by showing them.
Showing them if there is a danger to their health. In that case, if somebody is a long journey and the leader is part of it, and some people are suffering, then the leader should demonstrate that. That is okay in this case too. Okay, but otherwise, it's better to conceal it, meaning not to do it, making a show of eating, going to a food court and having, this meal. If you have to, get it and eat it in your car.
Okay, wonderful. So now we're still talking about traveling here. So now let's say, Sheikh, I'm traveling sometime in the afternoon, maybe at 12 o'clock.
Okay? Yes.
But now I know I'm traveling. I bought my ticket and I'm ready to go. Do you break your fast in the morning time or after? Because now there is a difference in Salah. For instance, you don't go with the ahkam of traveling until you're traveling. Is it the same for fasting?
This is something questionable among scholars, but there is nothing. Because if you definitely know that you are traveling, then you don't need to fast that day. So of course it doesn't matter. But generally speaking, the standard fiqh would be inclined towards saying that your travel did not start yet. So you should be fasting until you start your journey and things like that. But there is no need for that, because we have the case of Anas bin Malik from home, before he's setting out for. So this is something, in Sharia, when there is no explicit text then there is a matter of interpretation. That's why fiqh rulings, different rulings. So we cannot impose something on people if it's not enforced strictly by the Sharia. Because la shara illa bima awjaba Allah, illa bima shara Allah. We cannot make a Sharia out of a simple opinion of scholars. That's not Sharia, that's fiqh. That's a fiqh ruling. So if there is another ruling, you are free to follow it.
Okay, wonderful. So this is the traveling part that we're talking about here. So now let's talk about when, and we touched on this last week a little bit, which is the when does Ramadan begin?
Well, Ramadan begins.
You have a very distinct opinion.
Yeah, صومكم حين يصوم الناس وفطركم حين يفطر الناس. You fast with people and break your fast with people. So Muslims as a community is something, not individuals, look for the moon and they start it. When the decision is made by as a community, tomorrow is Ramadan, we fast. So how do we decide? Of course, I have already mentioned, in this time and age, it's more comfortable for us to go by calculation. But of course, some people don't follow that. And if you are part of a Jama'ah, where they decide strictly based on moon sighting, you should be with them. Yeah.
So now in the West,
we should not make a big issue out of it. If the Jama'ah you belong to make this decision that first you go by moon sighting, yes, go by that. But other Islamic Institute, we follow the fiqh position of Fiqh Council of North America. So we have decided to go by calculation, scientific calculation, in regards to Ramadan, beginning of Ramadan, as well as the ending of Ramadan. But as for Hajj, Arafah Day, we go by the decision of the Amirul Hajj, because we don't have a Arafah here. Arafah Day fasting, we cannot say we have Arafah here, plains of Arafah, it's only one, and that's in Saudi Arabia. So when the Amirul Hajj decides that tomorrow is Arafah Day, we fast on Arafah Day, and we observe the feasting, day of feasting accordingly, inshallah.
Okay, so I guess really the fear of, and I just want to kind of get your commentary on this. The fear is when you say you follow the Jama'ah that you're a part of in the West, the Jama'at is almost the masjid that you pray at. So you can have a father and a son who pray at the IIT, and a grandson and a grandfather praying at a different masjid. And now you have one household that's following just your comments on that.
It's better that, family, the leader of the family decide and others should follow in that case. That is their Jama'ah there. It's not that, the father, frequenting institute or foundation, he should be the one deciding what his family should be.
Okay. Wonderful. Sounds good, inshallah. It's actually, I like that answer, inshallah. Let's talk about the pillars of fasting. What is fasting? In order for me to consider myself as a fasting man physically?
Yes, fasting, first of all, any act of worship is not valid without intention. Intention is not uttering words that I'm going to fast tomorrow. It's rather your formulation of intention in your heart, in your mind. Al-Niyya mahalluha al-qalb. The locus of the place of the Niyya is the heart. So if you are deciding to fast, you should be making that Niyya when you wake up for suhoor. Of course, when you wake up for suhoor, you are already following through that intention to fast. So that's why Imam Ibn Taymiyyah said that when you wake up for suhoor, already there, even if you don't formulate that in your heart. But anyway, it's better to have that clear intention in your heart that you are fasting.
So you've spoken about the pillars of fasting, Sheikh. Now let's talk about some of the sunan of fasting. What are some of the let's not, because we can't exhaust all of them, but let's talk about the most important sunan, or the ones that people need to know about.
The most important sunnah of fasting is that, because fasting is, Ramadan is an important pillar of Islam, we need to have that intention, always mindfulness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, so that you develop mindfulness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's very important to restrain our eyes and our tongue and our actions, make control of our tongue, our thoughts, and speech. The Prophet ﷺ said, whoever does not shun, foul speech and frivolous actions, sinful deeds, he did not gain any reward of fasting. The same is the case with all the acts of worship in Islam. It has to be, one has to do it with that intention of pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and being aware of what you are doing, mindfulness. And this is very important. And also we should keep away, try to use this fasting as a discipline to develop those good habits like reading the Quran and also studying, inshallah. Not just reading the Quran, but trying to understand something of the message of the Quran, and also familiarizing ourselves with the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
So, this is wonderful. You've talked about some of these things, but I do actually want to delve a little bit deeper into it. So now, in Ramadan, what's unique about it is that it's just not one worship that gets revived. It's not just fasting. You do see that there's a lot of other worships that happen there. Let's talk a little bit about some of the other stuff that happens in Ramadan.
Yes, fasting the whole month. It's a kind of a madrasa. It's a course, a month-long course in spiritual training. Developing our mind habit, trying to break free of habits, and developing new habits. Because one of the best way of describing Ramadan, it comes at you from all, imagination, community involvement and actions. So it's all a spiritual atmosphere, a total immersion in a spiritual exercise. So therefore you come to the masjid for Taraweeh. And not just for Taraweeh, you be there for Isha prayer, because Isha prayer is more important than Taraweeh. Isha prayer is farl, and Taraweeh is a highly recommended sunnah. So if you are in the habit of coming to the masjid only for Taraweeh, that's not a good idea. Come early.
You've missed the point.
So that you join the Isha prayer and then continue the Taraweeh as much as you can, because if you have to go to work and it's late, you can pray as much as you want. It's not necessary you complete the 20 rak'ah. So also get involved.
Can one pray Taraweeh at home?
Yes, if we cannot do it in the masjid because of work situation and things like that, at least a few rak'ahs. It should be done before suhoor time, inshallah.
So this is actually a good thing that we talk about here. So now, especially for us in North America, Ramadan is during the summertime. It's really difficult because it ends really late. The Tarawih ends really late. Would you say, and this is just a question really on the side, would you say it's better for people to pray at home with more serenity with their families, with their wives and children, because they can able to do that? Or would you say it's better for them to come to the actual mosque? Because if the idea is to pray Jama'ah, you can pray Jama'ah
Well,
home.
if they can make it at least to the masjid for Isha prayer and the 4 rak'ah of Taraweeh, that would be an excellent idea, and they should do it during weekends, definitely. But those who are doing rigorous work, very hard jobs, things like that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will know the situation and reward them for the niyyah. And even if they do it the rest at home, Allah will reward them for the niyyah, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is merciful. And yes, in this extreme long hours of fasting, sometimes it's hard for everybody to make it to the masjid because of the work situation. But if you have the option of taking time off, at least for a couple of days in Ramadan from your work, and make up for it later, you should do that. Because Ramadan does not come, it's only once a year.
Okay,
so
that's Taraweeh, which is Qiyam.
Yes.
What other worship is encouraged in Ramadan?
Of course, the most important act of worship in Ramadan is generosity. Because the whole purpose of Ramadan is, one of the main purposes to develop empathy understanding what these poor people who don't have anything to eat or drink throughout the year they go through. So this fasting is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala want to expose everybody to the hunger and thirst that the poor are going through day in and day out. So it should encourage us to be more generous. And if you are in the habit, if you have to give zakah, it's a very good idea to do it in Ramadan because there is more reward. Any good deed you do in Ramadan, multiple rewards. So on top of zakah, you should also give some charity as much as you can, because everyone knows his own circumstances. But we can do so by cutting down our unnecessary expenses, wasteful habits, which all of us have picked up from this milieu.
Really, you should be spending less anyways in Ramadan.
Yes.
Because you're not eating out.
Exactly. Cut out some of those wasteful. Don't have too many dishes. One or two dishes is more than enough. Because the idea is to remind ourselves of those who are unfortunate, who have nothing.
Okay, very good. So we're talking about fasting, we're talking about qiyam, salat qiyam,
and
we're talking
as
about
well as dhikr, tilawat of Quran, reciting the Quran, because month of Ramadan is the month of Quran. Quran was first revealed in the month of Ramadan, and the Prophet ﷺ, especially the last year of his life, Jibreel came twice to review the whole Quran twice with him. So Muslim community have this habit of, if you have not been reading Quran every day, juz at least in Ramadan you try to complete the whole Quran reading at least once, and then also try to attend Tarawih as much as possible. Of course, my own this you can make one juzu in 20 minutes actually. So if we cut out all those, in Ramadan we don't do all those things, so we have so much time. So at least one juzu a day should be reasonable, and you can do so even when you are traveling in TTC. If you are driving 1 hour, you listen to that Quran. If you cannot read it, listen.
Is listening the equivalent to reading?
If somebody cannot read, at least listening, because ma la yudrak kulluhu la yutrak kulluhu. If you cannot have it all, do whatever you can. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward us, inshallah.
Is it better to read the Quran in Ramadan or to understand it in Ramadan? Should one read tafsir as well?
Try to understand as well. You can read one juz, but try to understand at least 1 or 3 verses of the Quran. Quran is a deep thing. You cannot claim to understand the whole of it. You take it in doses, inshallah.
One little bit at a time. Okay, very wonderful, inshallah. So we're talking about fasting, we're talking about prayer, we're talking about reading Quran and charity as well.
Dhikrullah, developing the habit of dhikr. This is an excellent thing, because when the Prophet was asked, in Islam there are a lot of things, I cannot keep track of them all. Tell me one thing that I can cling to that would save me. The Prophet ﷺ said, La yazalu lisanuka ratban bi dhikrillah. Let your tongue be always busy with dhikrullah. So subhanallah, alhamdulillah, subhanallah wa bihamdihi, la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika la, lahul mulku wa lahul hamd, wa huwa ala kulli shayin qadir. Or Asma'ullah, the beautiful names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Try to make a habit of, so that we may develop the habit, every breath we make tasbih. That's what we do in Jannah. They will be like breathing, we make tasbih. So we can develop that habit of dhikr here, inshallah. That would be an excellent thing, because if in case death comes in a state of dhikr, of course, that's a beautiful sign. Husnul Khatima. So that's good.
Okay, wonderful. The last one that I want to talk about, for today at least, is the Sunnah of I'tikaf.
Yes. I'tikaf is spiritual retreat, an excellent thing, because we are all around us always busy with so many things. So it's free from all distractions. We spend a few days. If a person cannot have 10 days, he can at least 2 days, 3 days, whatever he can. Even 1 day, have a spiritual retreat, come to the masjid and sit there and make dhikr and keeping away all distractions. That's a very good thing, to keep our mind focused. And that will help us have that spiritual, taste, to gain that spiritual taste, inshallah.
So the i'tikaf, so let's talk about maybe the ahkam and the rulings of it, because everything else is easy to come by.
Yeah, the proper i'tikaf is 10 days, the last 10 days. But of course, there is no limit to i'tikaf. Any time a person can come, whatever time he can devote himself solely with the intention of spiritual retreat, he will be rewarded for it. So, but properly, if you have the whole 10 days of last 10 days, you should enter with the niyyah of i'tikaf and have that, if you can, just earmark a certain area in the masjid for yourself. Of course, as long as they allow you. Otherwise, you can sit in a corner and just read the Quran and make dhikr, keeping your mind focused on dhikr and dua and things like that. All of the worldly thoughts.
What kind of things can you do in i'tikaf?
In i'tikaf, you are simply focusing on dhikr, dua, and keeping your mind, free from all distractions of worldly thoughts, actually.
How does that happen? Can one do that?
What?
Can one really do that? I mean,
surely. Prophet ﷺ was doing it before prophethood, and he was doing it,
No, but I mean, the question, I guess really the question is that I'm trying to ask is, nowadays, people are connected all of the time through their phones, their devices.
Yeah, so this is an excellent training to cut out all the devices, at least, because these devices are killing us. They are taking away our spiritual mindset. And, we don't have that taste for spiritual matters because of this distraction. Everything is distracted. We don't have any focus. We don't have any concentration. So this is Ramadan will help us, inshallah. And nothing is impossible. People break very, very extreme bad habits using the benefits of Ramadan, with the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you are focused on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ask the help of Allah, and you want to do it, motivate yourself, and ask the help of Allah, surely you can do it. Cut out the internet for 10 days, good. Devices for 10 days, it's an excellent thing.
Wonderful, Sheikh. So I just want to end it here today, inshallah. I do want to speak to you another time, inshallah, about what breaks fasting, and maybe get some questions from some of the viewers about about the rulings and some of the stuff that they have gone through. Jazakallah khair. It's always a pleasure to have you, mashallah.
Inshallah, may Allah bless all of us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us to be mindful of preparing our mind and our imagination before the arrival of Ramadan, so that we educate ourselves, we have that proper mindset to welcome this great guest of honor. It's the greatest, gift that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. All of these pillars of Islam are beautiful, and Ramadan is especially, rewarding and beneficial, helping us to break bad habits and take on good habits, inshallah.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. So that's it for today, folks. We've spoken to Sh.Ahmad Kutty about the rulings of fasting the month of Ramadan. If you have a question that you'd like for us to ask the Sheikh, please make sure you comment below with your question. We'll ask the Sheikh next time, inshallah ta'ala, all of your questions that you have regarding the month of Ramadan or regarding fasting.